Hey world, welcome back to the RC Air Experience. We have a very special guest on today, and Martin, you may not know this, you may know this, but I think you still are. I'll consider you are. But you were my man crush for a long time, and I thought I'd save that for you guys.
Okay. Hi. Thanks.
So welcome to
Not
the
not
channel.
the direction I was expecting for this for the first 30 seconds.
I'm happily married, and I don't mean it in that way. I just mean in general. You go back 5 or 6 years, and I remember watching your videos, and I was like, man, I want to be just like that guy. And Ali's
And
another one
there
of them
you
as
are,
well
doubling
too.
my
So,
subscribers. I hate you. You've come up from
hey,
behind and overtaken us so fast. But no,
it
you're
all
doing an awesome
happens.
job.
Thank you. So, welcome to the podcast. It is a pleasure to have you on. We finally
Pleasure
crossed
to be here.
paths. Thank you. We finally crossed paths at Jet Power, middle of September. And
Yep.
that was the first time that I met you. You met me, and we had a brief chat there. And yeah, it was awesome to finally meet you and put a face to all the videos and the name and everything. So, welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Yep.
Awesome.
Episode 24 and the last episode of the year. So thank you.
Perfect. Closing
Yep.
out 2024.
Oh
You
yeah.
betcha. Awesome. So, we saw each other at Jet Power, and I think since then you've gone to India and Dubai. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We went over to Dubai for their National Day. Which I've been fortunate enough to go to a few times. They are making it harder every year we go. First few years arrived, got a plane to fly, everything's awesome,
Yeah.
great, go have fun. Then we had to build the prop plane basically in a day so we could have it ready for the event. And this year we took it one step further, and the idea was to fly a jet there. However, it wasn't built. And once again, we were back to building a plane in a day, which after having left work Friday afternoon, catching a late night Friday evening flight to Dubai, landing in Dubai 8 a.m. with no sleep, going to the flying field and having a box with a load of parts next to it saying, okay, that will some point be a plane.
Wow.
We have to build this jet in time for tomorrow. And by the time we actually figured out what we were doing, how we were going about it all, and said hi to everyone at the flying field and so on, it was basically 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh my
And we had
gosh.
an afternoon to build a jet which was still crated up in the box. So, first plug of the video. There's a video on that.
Yes.
So
And
check
I
it
was going
out,
to say
anyone.
that. I watched it. It was awesome. I think you guys in the video, you finished
That
at
was
like
stressful.
11:59. So,
Yeah, I mean, we like a challenge, and definitely challenges are getting harder and harder. But the challenge was to have it done in the day, and we finished from memory about 27 seconds to spare
oh my
when we turned the
gosh.
turbine off. So that wasn't planned. That wasn't edited into the video. That
Yeah.
was somehow it just worked out.
Awesome.
And then I slept really well that day.
What's the reason for the challenges going to Dubai? Is there something to do with the government, country?
Oh no, it's well, there's a kind of funny story which is slightly controversial depending on which side you're on, entirely
Yeah.
hobby related.
Yeah.
Basically, at that location, it's an amazing field or complex because they have the model shops on site.
Yeah.
So you can literally build a plane, buy a plane, do whatever on site.
hmm
And I've always been with Gonzo, who've always taken great care of us, and they have a massive shop there.
Yeah.
On one of these occasions, I went with Powerbox, and Powerbox at that time had kind of more of a relation with one of the other shops.
Mm.
Now, they had a plane ready for me, which was a 50cc. Normally, I always prefer a 100cc. And they were eventually able to get me a 100cc ready, which on the first flight that I did on it, which was only about the fifth flight of the plane, it literally disintegrated in the air. We'll avoid brands. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
But
Right.
Yeah.
basically this 100cc blew up, and they basically turned around to me and said, "Okay, can you please now go back to flying the rubbishy little 50cc that we got you?" It's like, not really, no. And the guys at Gonzo sort of overheard part of this, and they sort of said, "Hey, I've got 100cc over here. It's
Yeah.
in the box. We kind of have to build it, but if you want to build it, it's there for you. We'll supply the engine, the servos, the electronics,
Cool.
everything. All we have to do is assemble it." It was a Pilot RC laser, 103 inches, 100cc, and basically in about 4 hours, with some help from a few of the guys there, we cracked this thing out in the Gonzo workshop, and then immediately rolled it out and flew it, which was like
Wow.
the most amazing thing. Everything was held in with 5-minute epoxy. The other shop wasn't particularly pleased because they kind of felt that I was with them, which
Yeah.
in reality wasn't really the case, because I was with
Yeah.
Powerbox, and both these shops were with Powerbox, so there wasn't actually an issue from our point of view flying
Yeah.
one thing or the other. But let's just say that the first shop wasn't too happy with me, but it kind of started, shall we say, a complex tradition that for some reason, rather than having a plane ready for me to fly with Gonzo, they like to push me to build something new every time we go. Which, having
Well,
now built a Vector jet,
Yeah.
I'm hoping we can put that one to rest now and not have to build something crazier or bigger, because I think that was enough.
It's
Aside from the obvious disclaimer, probably wouldn't recommend anyone trying to build
yes.
a 3D Vector jet in an afternoon. Take
Yeah.
your time, guys. They're easy to build. They're easy to assemble now, but still they need doing right.
Yeah.
Wow.
As
It's
proven by the fact that one of the landing gears, we had a sort of a minor issue on the first flight.
yeah. At least you had an
But
army of
you can
people
see,
to
you can
help
watch the video
right?
for that.
So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we started with an army of people. We started
Yeah.
usual thing. Oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. It's like, okay. Then when you're a couple of hours in, and suddenly a couple of people disappear, and then a couple
Yeah.
more people disappear, and you're stuck there, just Carlos from CM Jets and me saying, okay, we did have an army of people, but this looks like it's down to you and me, mate. And I'm not letting go of you, so you're not going anywhere.
Nice.
That is
Anthony, can
neat.
you just pause it for 1 second?
Yes, sir.
I told.
All right, we're
Awesome.
back.
So the Dubai videos, encourage you guys to check it out on Martin's channel. So also tell us about India. How does that all come into play?
India's a fun one. India, I have always been, I mean, I've probably been like 7, 8, 9 times now.
Yeah.
And it's always to go spend time with basically one family. It's
Okay.
a father and a son team who just absolutely love and live for flying. The first time I went over there, it was to basically just help set up a few 3D prop planes, and try and give them some pointers to improve their own flying levels, flying skills. And while I was there, they sort of expressed interest that they wanted to get into jets, and especially 3D jets. And it just seems sort of snowballed since then. And every time we go back, it's just to set up more and more planes, usually bigger or more complex models, and just help push these guys in the right direction to do all now the 3D maneuvers, all the hovering, the harrying,
Yeah.
the spins, which admittedly on the last few trips, how much use I am to them now is kind of, I guess, I don't know. I mean, they're already flying really well. I mean, they're hovering down on the deck. They're doing harriers all up and down the runway.
Nice.
Guys, I really enjoy coming here, but you don't need me anymore. My job's done.
Yeah.
But it's always a really cool experience there, because I mean, they have their own airfield that they set up themselves. Massive runway, super wide, super long.
Wow.
Loads of cool models, and it's just a case of go have fun. And because most of the time it's literally just the three of us in a very unique set of circumstances.
Mhm.
I've not been anywhere else where you have the level of assistance and help that they have there. I mean, we're talking, we arrive at the flying field probably about 10 in the morning, and we arrive and there's 12 models laid out on the runway assembled, charged, fueled, ready to go.
Wow.
You point at one, you have a radio handed to you while the other guy's starting it.
Wow.
Then you land it, guy goes running after the plane, just leave the radio on the table, they'll bring the plane back, turn it all off, refuel it, recharge it if necessary. If you need to do any mechanical changes, even repairs, or just engine incident is wrong, so you need to put a washer under the engine or do
Yeah.
any kind of geometry on the servos, just sort of say, oh, this and this, and the plane will disappear. It'll come back 3/4 of an hour later. And they, do you want to try it now, or do you want to wait a bit? It's just such a surreal experience, which is so hard when you come back home and you have to put your plane on charge, you have to put it in the trailer, you have to get it to the flying field, you got to start it yourself. You think, oh, I've got to put one washer on the engine or the turbine, and I'll just fly it as it is.
Yeah.
It's so very different, but it's a really cool experience.
Interesting. That's really neat. I think I remember you kind of touching on a little bit of that during one of your videos as well too, and it's neat to see that behind the scenes stuff as well too, because I think you haven't always put videos out on the India trip, correct? Or have you pretty much always done a video?
Most of the time I've done videos, it's just trying to find either a new angle or a different angle on it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times it's been videos focused on the flying. In the last few years, I've been trying to sort of storyfy the videos a lot more, which isn't always easy because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, when I go, especially to India, it isn't an event. So you're not expecting to see other pilots or spectacular models other than the ones that you yourself are going to be setting up and flying.
Yeah.
So how do you find a story? So like this time, I was able to sort of play with a bit that they've extended the runway and done a few changes. So hopefully that'll come out on video. I'm still editing that one. That one should be out probably in the new year. But yeah, trying to storyfy. I don't know how you feel yourself, Jonathan, but I think just anyone can upload a video showing a load of planes flying.
Yes.
And there are also a load of channels that do really well on that. They get loads of subscribers, loads of views, and probably loads of income from it.
Yep.
But as we were saying a minute ago off camera, it's not really the kind of video I enjoy doing. I like my own style of videos, which probably goes against me for some of those numbers. But it's generally videos that I'm proud of and that I actually enjoy making and I'm excited to upload.
Right.
Well, YouTube's a funny, really is a funny thing too, because you look at your most popular video and it's from 3 years ago. It's got 1.5 million views and it's the discus launch glider video.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And I bet you when you put that together, you never thought it would do that well.
No, not to mention the fact that we filmed it in about 15 minutes, edited it in another 15 minutes when we got home and uploaded it as almost a filler. Just, oh, well, I haven't got anything this week. We'll upload this. And hey presto, after flying some of the biggest planes in the world, some of the biggest jets in the world, some of the most scale, coolest locations in the world, a discus launch glider is my number one by a factor of about 3.
Yes.
That is funny.
So yeah, the weird thing about that one is that it actually did very little when it was uploaded.
Yeah.
That went nuclear about a year ago.
Yeah.
Somehow, something, the algorithm just picked it and went boom. And it
that's kind of a funny thing with
over 1 million views in 2 months.
It's kind of a funny thing with YouTube. I just had so when I first started this 5 years ago, I did I think it might have been a 4 year ago video, but I did a Chikoi, the turboprop, the X45. And like, I mean, it was a fine video, got, I don't know, 10, 20,000 views or whatever over its lifespan so far. And then just randomly about a month ago, YouTube or Google or whatever picked it up and it started getting suggested to people and like the views on it went nuts, right?
Yeah.
And it's an old video. So it's really not that great.
It's probably because they've been teasing the new 30 or 30 something.
Yeah,
And people have
good
been
point.
looking, is there anything online? And it's just been looping it at a guess.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's actually a really good
going
point.
back to the DLG, I have one here which I've been doing the video for the last week or so,
Oh, cool.
and hoping to upload that soon. And I'll bet you anything you want, it's gonna do nothing. It's gonna do the channel average, and then gonna just sit there. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Fun
Maybe
toys.
it'll be your next biggest video. You never really know, right?
Never know.
So Martin, I have a couple of questions. So I was looking at your site's awesome, by the way. I was doing a little research to your site, and your site's awesome, and specifically the
Very
biography
out of
page.
date, but thank you.
Well, it's nice. It's clean. It's a lot of effort went into it. And specifically the autobiography part I was looking at is actually really cool. And I was looking at the part where you've basically shown there's a map on like how many countries you've flown in. So it says 20 countries, five continents. And I guess you're saying that information's outdated at this point. Is it more than that now?
Possibly. That website, I'll admit that just life has been getting in the way lately, and it's probably a year. I think the last video or blog entry there was probably a little over a year ago now. So I don't think I've added any more countries at this point,
Right.
but yeah, there's a load of events missing.
So I have
But
two.
it's a fun little map.
It's actually
There's
really
one
cool.
issue there. There's one really big chunk which we need to red out, which is a little bit up from where you are now, Jonathan. Hint,
Yeah.
hint, wink, wink.
Yes, agreed.
That will make a massive difference on the on the map if we can get Canada out there.
It would cover
Need
about
to
50%.
pop over and
So,
see you. Exactly.
well, you guys are
Not
more
quite
than
sure
welcome
why it's showing
anytime.
Alaska. I
So,
think that. Thank you. Like Alaska, for some reason, on that app gets filled out when you do USA. I haven't
yeah.
flown in minus 100 degrees yet, but
So two-part question. I've always one of my
Sure.
dreams. I see you flown in Chile or Chile.
yes,
It's got to be gorgeous there, right? Because I've seen some of the runways that they have with the mountains in the background and
yeah,
like
the catch.
yeah. So my two-part question is, what is the prettiest place you've ever flown? And then the second part of that question is, since you've been able to kind of, I've always wondered this, right? RC stuff is pretty big here in the US. And I've always wondered, where is it the biggest? Like what country really is the home of RC aviation where it's just
Ooh.
like a really big thing. So prettiest location,
Okay.
and then what country gets the award for being the most into RC aviation?
Nothing like
you've
putting one on the
mentioned
spot. I would probably say the Chile location at Catch it's such a unique aerodrome, in as much as we go to any location or anywhere really, and they tend to have the runway, and maybe they have a little circuit round the back for cars, or there's a clubhouse or whatever. The infrastructure that they have in Chile is second to none. I've not seen anything like it yet. I mean, they have something ridiculous like 5 runways, which can all be used at the same time, and they don't overlap.
Wow.
They also have 3 or 4 circuits for cars. They have a man-made lake for boating in.
Huh.
Not to mention that they recently added go-kart circuit, shooting range, and all kinds of other fun activities in there. They have something like 120 shipping containers permanently parked there, which people rent out and store models on site, or even build and assemble models on site in.
Wow.
When they have air conditioning in them, it's just ridiculous.
Wow.
So that's probably also one of the prettier locations, because you have the mountains in the background, which, especially if you're lucky enough to be there when it snowed, you can be in this almond surrounded flying field, which, if when in blossom, is beautiful. Then you have the snow mountains in the background, which is also spectacular.
Right.
And then you have this modeler's paradise where you just have the biggest runways and there's such a cool location.
Okay.
There's quite a few places. I mean, I would probably say that the prettiest locations are probably a lot of the ones that the glider guys go to. I mean, some of
Mhm.
the places that I mean, I've flown a couple of times in Switzerland, and there it's just everything's green and picturesque and beautiful.
Yep.
I mean, heck, going back to the DLG, I recently had my first holiday ever in my life, and we went to Yosemite National Park in the USA. And one of the locations, all I wanted was one of these, because I mean, we were like 800 meters up in the air over a cliff, and I'm thinking, if something went wrong, it would just be lost forever. But it would be so epic to be able to fly from here, even if we'd
Right.
also get so arrested for it real quick.
Yeah.
It's true.
And as for the other question, I would say probably the States has to be the biggest focus point. I mean, Germany is massive as well, but
Yeah.
they're limited by the weather. I mean, they have basically a half year worth of flying. The other half, they're very limited, which is also why they have such awesome models, because they spend half of their hobby, half of the year in the workshop preparing for the flying season,
It makes sense.
which is something that here in Spain, basically our flying season is 51 weeks of the year. And the other week we probably could go, but it's a bit cold and we can't be bothered. We'll go next week. England is actually really big too. England seems to have a lot of heritage in model flying, a lot like a lot of sort of Eastern Europe. I mean, sort of Poland, Czech. They're not really well known for it, even though a lot of big brands come out of there. But
Right.
if you go to an air show in any of those countries, it's amazing because it's just a stark contrast to what we're used to seeing. I mean, you go
Mhm.
to an air show in Spain, in England, in America, or in Canada, and normally you'll see mostly all of the same aircraft. Some of them with bigger budgets, some of them with smaller budgets, but at the end of the day, they're krill, calf, pilot, whatever. Whereas you go to these countries and everything's homemade. And we're not just talking the models. I mean, you go over there and they've made their own exhausts. Made their own turbines, engines. I mean,
Landing
it's just
gear.
ridiculous. Everything.
Yeah.
And really cool to see, but really invested in the hobby, even if
Yeah.
the results, unfortunately, in most cases, aren't as rewarding as they should be for these people that have spent so many hours putting things into it. I mean, went to Poland for an air show, and a load of really awesome models that were all handmade, scratch built, but they made everything. And the amount of them that were damaged by the end of the show because of their own doing, shall we say, failures
Mhm.
of their own components. I mean, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But different side. Oh, it's the same side of the hobby, but so much more involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Thank you. That's awesome. It's so a lot of the traveling now, is this like some of the plane companies or your sponsors flying you to these different countries, or are you doing this kind of on your own dime, going to these shows and stuff like that?
A little bit of everything, really. I do consider myself as being very fortunate that I do have a lot of support from a lot of different companies that help massively towards a lot of the events that we do.
Right.
There are also quite a number of events, especially the sort of the more local European ones, which are very much a case of I want to go there, and that's it. Comes out of
Mhm.
your own back pocket. Another reason why things like YouTube, my online website, and so on are all a big help, because that can then reinvest back into those trips.
Yeah.
And then most of the seriously long distance trips are generally either via sponsors or organizers of the events, which are in touch and just want to do something a little bit different.
Now you're doing this full time, right? This is your whole, or
Oh
do
no,
you?
no, you can't do that. There's no money in this. We have a mortgage.
So you
No,
have
so
a,
I work.
You have a
I
day
have a
job?
full-time job. I have a full-time job, and then this is very much afternoons, evenings, weekends, and probably way too much of my spare time. But wouldn't have it
Wow.
any other way.
Wow. I figured, with how busy you are with all the shows and everything, and then you have an online store too, right? So I
Yeah,
figured maybe, wow. So what do you do during the day when you're not airplaning it?
it's really, really similar. I work in a lawyer's office. So yeah, look, all the skills that I've learned here, I can just directly take them
They just go
into
right
the
over.
lawyer's office, and completely benefits me in every single way. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty
So I,
cool.
But
I,
no,
I feel
I've
like
been
I feel like the YouTube side of things might be your creative outlet then.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been very fortunate. My CV basically fits on a post-it note. It says that in 2007 started working at Abaco Advisors, this law firm, and I've been there ever since.
Hmm.
Worked my way up. Currently the head of 2 departments, have power attorney for the company, and have a sort of working relationship with the manager and the owner, where basically, as long as things are working, statistics are being smashed, they basically say if you need to go, go. I mean, still only have the same amount of holiday as everyone else, but I have a lot more freedom to be able to split that up and take it as loose days or afternoons or whatever,
Yeah.
whenever's needed to travel about and have fun.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
I did actually
how's the
also, so
go ahead.
I did actually, back in 2007, probably committed one of the worst things that you can do in an interview, which was I didn't ask how much money I was going to get paid, but I did ask for holiday when I was given a 1 month trial period. So that's great, but I need 2 days holiday. So that was a rather unusual conversation. The manager was kind of, that's not happened before.
Yeah.
But he calculated it. He said, yeah, it works out roughly to 2 days per month worked. So we can do that. And it's just rolled on sort of ever since.
Wow.
Nice. How's the YouTube journey been going for you?
Fun, slow.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a lot of these channels where they seem to just blow up in numbers, even within our hobby and industry, which on some days can be a little bit frustrating. You think, I've been
Yeah.
doing this for how many years now? And I mean, when I started this, I will admit that it was pretty much purely for the purpose of growing my self-confidence to be able to talk in front of a camera.
Hmm.
At that point, I was still competing, and occasionally I was asked to do minor interviews on TV for local channels or whatever. And every single time, it was just so embarrassing. uh, Forget how to talk, forget how to
Yeah.
interact with people, all the usuals. And it just seemed like a way to try and get over that.
Hmm.
I've always been one to sort of set goals and targets for myself and actually try and stick to them. And yeah, I really struggled, especially for sort of like the first year on YouTube, just like being completely embarrassed out of my own wits when I'm in a closed room in my own workshop with a camera that I have total control over who's going to see what's on that SD card. And I can just format it in camera without even seeing it, and still mumbling words and not being able to concentrate because this is so embarrassing. So that's been a really good journey. I think I've definitely gone past that. Still takes me a load of takes on a load of different
Hmm.
videos, but that's another story. And then from there, I quickly realized it was a really cool way, and at the time, novel way to appreciate my sponsors and
Yeah.
the events and event organizers for the events I was going to be able to
Hmm.
offer something a little bit different. Because at that time, I'm sure there were people doing it, but at the time, it was not particularly something that I can really say there was A, B, or C person doing it. I thought it was
Right.
just something nice.
Right.
And then, of course, you learn about the silver subscriber plaque, 100,000, and it's still dream to be able to get that 100,000 subscriber plaque and be able to put it up on the wall behind us, as I'm sure it is for you too, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm sure Jonathan's going to get there before any of us will. He's on his way.
Yeah, he's definitely he's halfway there now, I think, just a little bit
Yeah.
over halfway there.
Yeah.
So we've got some catching up to do if we're still on that battle to reach 100,000 first.
So I'm horrible with YouTube. Although my channel's only about a year. Posting for me is only about a year old.
I was just challenging you to 100,000 subs is all, so no biggie.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear about that at all. So
I think we challenged that one. What was it, a year ago?
yeah.
And I've got some serious catching up to do.
Well, you've done some pretty good traction on it too. So my channel's been
Working on
pretty
it.
slow. So you've been doing okay.
I think we'd both love it to go a little bit quicker.
Yes, absolutely. I would love it to go quicker, but I've stopped caring. I've tried to stop caring so much about it.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't work.
No, it
So
doesn't
Martin,
work.
I've seen you do some pretty crazy things from your videos with jets and everything like that. Were you
dear. Okay.
like,
yeah?
some people are just born with like natural talent, right? Some people are just born with that natural, like, yeah. My son watches like these kids play video games, and like the stuff these kids do with like video games is like, oh my God, how did that kid do that? And it's like, you could tell that kid was just born with that ability to like just be amazing at video games. So it seems like you are one of those people who was just,
Yeah, no.
so I was going to ask you,
No.
well, you spend a lot of time practicing, especially, do you still do competitions or?
Probably could best just be described as being pig-headed. Basically, as we said a minute ago, I tend to like setting targets for myself and challenging myself to reach that. And stubbornness generally prevails to doing close to what I was hoping for. So here's something which will probably make a load of people's day. It took me a year to learn to take off, fly a circuit, and land. I've taught people to do that in 2 days.
Wow.
So it took me a year to be able to actually do all those 3 solo. Then took me again quite long periods of time to learn different maneuvers and so on and so forth. I would say I'm probably quite methodical, maybe a little bit OCD sometimes in setups and figuring out how something works rather than just banging sticks in a corner and see what happens.
Right.
And I think all of that added to all the competition flying that I did back in the day, which to answer your question, no, I don't compete anymore. Judging is always horrible worldwide, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my fill basically a number of years back. Did really well in international competitions and then did really poorly in national competitions, which just did not make any sense whatsoever. And having to go back on a Monday morning to my boss, to the manager back in the day and say, well, how did you do? Well, same guy beat me as always, even though we just came back from the European Championships with 10 ex-top pilots as judges, and I absolutely smashed him. But yeah, so competition something that I really enjoyed doing back in the day. I think it's a difficult part of the hobby because, and this isn't even a dig at the judges. I've done a little bit of judging myself, and it's a really tough job. You can be as impartial as possible, and then even in the space of 10 flights, be judging the pilot and realize, actually, I'm comparing him to the last 3, but that's a completely different comparison to the first 3, because there was someone who was really good or really bad in between, and it's no longer a completely level playing field. So I think the F3A guys have got they're starting to implement, or I know they're practicing with, I can't think of the name. It's basically an onboard GPS, which allows them to track the entire flight on a computer after flying. and they're actually starting to implement that, I believe, in some competitions, which at that point, competing, I think, will be awesome because it will genuinely
Hmm.
be a level playing field, and the computer will be able to effectively score the flight for you, and there's no issues of the judges having to remember every single one of the last 37 flights.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was also at the time, it was a very difficult thing to do because there was no sponsorship in competition, basically, because there's no public in competition.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you do it because you love it. But after having done that for 6 or 7 years, I had my fill with the judging issues and thought, no, that's it. I'm just going to have fun with it now. Won Spanish Championship 4 times, done really well in Europeans, won a few, and no, just going to do exhibitions. And that's when it really blew up for me personally. Started doing more and more exhibitions where there was a lot more public. The fact that there was public meant that there were
Hmm.
sponsors there. Sponsors were interested in you flying their equipment because then people can see their equipment in the exhibition, and it just snowballed. We started doing more and more events, and
Um,
haven't looked back since.
so so practice for you was just a lot of getting out and practicing, or did you do like simulator time too?
Oh yeah, when I was especially picking up all the 3D stuff, I would buy the original simulator from the original Wire at the time. I liked Aerofly Pro Deluxe, so
Hmm.
I'd buy the CD with the wire. That wire would last me 6 months before it actually burnt up, just due to physically being on it for too many hours at a time.
Wow.
Wow.
I would actually go through one of those full packs roughly every 6 months.
Wow.
So
That's a lot of sim time.
how many hours I have on the sim, I have no idea. I then moved over to Real Flight, which I realized was a lot more difficult, shall we say, because Aerofly
Yeah.
was very floaty and easy,
Yes.
and therefore Real Flight seemed more beneficial for being able to translate that back to the flying field in real life. So I started burning out them wires instead. But yeah, loads of wires, loads and millions of batteries of foamies just flying in the garden, in the backyard, out in the street. Any time I had 10 spare minutes, I'd be flying a foamy, and
So,
I think that just really helped.
how old were you when you started flying?
When I started flying, I was about 14.
Okay.
What got you into it? Was it a parent,
It was an
relative?
accident. It was a really expensive accident. So basically, start with the sob story. Parents got divorced. I was living with my dad, and he struggled to be at home at the weekends because everything was a reminder of my mum. So the both of us, we would generally find something to do at the weekends to take us out the house.
Hmm.
It could be because there was yachts in the harbour that weekend, or there could be a big mass barbecue somewhere, or anything. Just find whatever's in the newspaper. And on one of these newspaper clippings, it said, okay, Saturday morning, static exhibition of model airplanes in the centre of town. So just like any other weekend, we got in the car, went out there and saw these planes. It's like, wow, this is really, really cool. And then they said, oh, well, if you come tomorrow to the flying field, which is just around the corner from here, pretty much everything that's here will be flying. It's like,
Wow.
what? You mean it's going to fly?
Yeah.
I was like, Dad, can we go tomorrow? So I was like, yeah, we'll do that tomorrow. Big mistake. So basically, as soon as we saw the first one flying, I then had, well, or my dad had a month of, Dad, can I have one? Dad, can I have one? Dad, can we get one? Dad, can we get one? And after a month of basically realizing that this wasn't going away, we then looked into it and eventually bought myself a little trainer and started having fun.
Nice.
So
Nice.
Cool.
I would say that's probably also been something that has been maybe slightly unusual in me, in as much as most of the people that we see at these air shows worldwide
Mhm.
are generally a young generation,
Yeah.
but pretty much every single one of them is there with their father, their uncle, or their granddad.
Right.
And they're awesome pilots. End of statement. Not sure how to start an engine, how to build an
Yep.
airframe, how to choose an airframe, or how to change a setting which isn't quite right.
Yeah.
That is now changing a little bit. Guys are getting more into, especially the radio side of things now. But when I started, especially when I started doing these events, I'm quite sure that that was probably a really big selling point. Not that I would sell it, but people would sort of just fall upon it naturally that if we had to go to China for an air show, I could go alone.
Mhm.
Whereas pretty much anyone else who could fly to a similar level or better than me, it had to be them and that assistant helper.
Yeah.
So basically, when someone had to see what the costs would be to have an international pilot come to their air show, if you have to buy one airline ticket or two airline tickets,
Right.
I got to go everywhere. So it worked out very much in my favor, even though it's something that I think would have been really cool to be able to do this with my dad, or generally just have someone to spend hours in the workshop with, or not have to concentrate on doing every single little thing yourself,
Yeah.
which at the end of the day is the reality.
Right.
So
Did your
you
dad?
you were 14, and just for context, how old are you now?
I'm 36.
Okay, so 22 years ago.
Wow.
So that was 2002 then, correct? When you started
Yeah.
flying? Okay. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to think about what the technology was that you had back then and everything. So it's kind of interesting to see that you've gone through a lot of changes as well
Yeah, I
too in
started in 35 megs,
yeah,
very basic radios, followed by very basic digital radios.
yeah,
Digital servos were non-existent.
yeah.
Petrol engines, wow! If you saw a petrol engine, that was amazing. And a turbine was just something you would see in a magazine.
Yes.
Your dad never
Things have
got into
changed.
it with you?
No, he thought I was nuts. The really expensive hobby of things that you have to build yourself, that wasn't mechanically minded. He was great
Yeah.
at a load of other things, but wasn't mechanically minded. So the idea of expensive airplanes with expensive components held together mechanically, which can easily fall out the sky, and if they don't fall out the sky, you can still crash them on landing, didn't sound like a good investment.
Yeah.
And it probably isn't, let's be fair.
Yes.
And that's why it'll probably be a very long time before I can convince my wife that a turbine's a good idea, because that right there sums it up. It's
Yeah.
Jump in with 2 feet, man. Just do
it's
it.
an expensive thing that you're literally flying that will crash at some point.
There's a brilliant phrase which applies fantastically to aero modelers. It's easier to beg forgiveness than it is ask for
Mhm.
permission.
Absolutely. Agree with
So
that
as soon as we finish
100%.
this, we want you to just send us a WhatsApp and say which jet it is that you just bought.
Totally.
Not gonna happen. I would love to.
Speaking of aircraft, F5, have you flown that yet? Your
And
F5.
no, unfortunately, that is sitting there exactly as it was at Jet Power.
Okay. Okay.
We've had a really fun but really hectic end of the year. So after Jet Power, we flew back and then drove basically to another event following weekend. We then had, after working for this company for 18 years, 17, 18 years, I actually took my first ever proper holiday.
Yeah.
So that had us in the US for 3 weeks. Then we've had Dubai, India, and I've still got a couple of clients' planes here to finish. And then I'm hoping to have that sorted before the end of the year.
Mhm.
K1, F5.
Awesome. And did
But we
you?
did get to fly the
Yeah.
same kit or mold, shall we say, produced by Tomahawk, even though this one's now by CM Jets.
Yeah.
In Dubai, thanks to Tassos.
Mhm.
That was a really cool experience. I'm still amazed at how on rails his F5 flew. It was just so
Mhm.
smooth. Admittedly, I was very uncomfortable with the radio. It was one of these big, massive radios with the huge, long sticks, which,
Oh,
considering I fly thumbs, well,
yeah.
I'm unusual. I fly thumb on the left and thumb with a pinch on the right.
Yeah.
Trying to thumb pinch like a 4-inch stick wasn't working. So I spent the entire flight trying to figure out different combinations of how to hold the radio, which wasn't particularly comfortable for me. And probably Tassos was looking at me thinking, what's he doing? Why is he keep, what's wrong?
He's
And
got the twitches
it
going on.
wasn't the best landing I've ever done, admittedly. It
Yeah.
came in a little bit slow because with being so uncomfortable, my own reactions are slower than usual.
Yeah.
So could have done with a little bit more speed, but we got it down on arrears, so wasn't too bad. But there was a moment there when he was like, "Dude, power."
What size engine was he running in his?
I believe he had it was either two JetCat 160s or two JetCat 180s.
Okay.
I think it was 180s,
And what's
which
the
is a stark difference to the JetCat single P220 that's going to be in this
yeah,
one.
that's what I
So
was
this
gonna
one
ask you.
should be
So
significantly lighter,
yeah.
which hopefully will compensate for the massive difference in power.
Yeah.
But we'll find out soon.
Are you planning on fuel bag for that or hard tanks?
Not too sure yet. At the moment, Carlos has sent us the main tank for it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a case of getting everything installed minus the tank and then seeing what space we have available and how awkward it is to both install, fill, and make sure that it's not too close to sort of things like landing gear and servo arms and so on. When we had a quick look at the one in Dubai, and it should be possible, but I think it's going to be tight. So this one may still be getting a standard traditional carbon Kevlar fuel tank.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see that come to fruition and excited to see you fly that thing. Would you say it
I'm
handles like
excited to hopefully see that this one stays in one piece, just like the one in Dubai, as it is very much the prototype.
Would you say it handles a lot like a sports jet?
Surprisingly so, yeah. I mean, it caught me off guard because it does have a very small wing.
Yeah.
And it's a very low profile wing as well. So the fact that it was so stable and precise in flight was sort of unexpected. I mean, normally I can tend to look at a plane and have a bit of an idea before taking off. Okay, this one's going to probably be good at this and bad at that. And this one was definitely better than I expected. So it definitely got me excited for when we have my own one set up on my own radio with proper size sticks, and I can actually start having some fun with it.
Awesome.
Any other projects that you're working on? Any other cool projects that you have on the bench, or?
Well, I got to have a couple of flights in Dubai on the Pilot RC Matrix, the big one, the 2.8. Which I probably shouldn't have done because as soon as I landed, I ordered one. So that's coming. Epic, just so good. I've flown the smaller one, the 2.2 size, quite a lot, and forget the fact I fly for Pilot. Just best sport jet out there today. Just amazing. It's amazing. It's just so precise. It feels so comfortable. It's not a plane that bites or twitches. And even, I mean, until I got to fly it, and even having flown it, the amount of times I'll see someone coming into land, someone who isn't necessarily a particularly experienced jet pilot, and when you see someone bringing it in and you're looking at it thinking that's going to stall. It's stalling. It's wait for it. Get the camera, guys. Get the camera out. It's going to be epic. and it just keeps going. It just keeps flying,
Yeah.
and then it lands at -2 miles per hour. And then you think, God, how the heck did it land that slow? And then they pull elevator, and the nose wheel pulls up, and it takes off
Yeah.
again. It's just ridiculous.
Jeepers.
And the big one, as I mean, I think you probably saw it in jet
Yeah.
power flights that Rio was doing on it, was just insane.
Mm-hmm.
And having flown that, as always, bigger is better. And just all those amazing qualities of the small one in big. So yeah, that's on the way now. Got to put another big turbine in there. Loads
Cool.
more fuel to run through, and that one should be fun because every matrix is the same color scheme.
Yeah.
So I said to Tony, I really don't want the same. I mean, especially I'm not sure if it's the same over where you guys are, but here in Spain, the everywhere there's just matrix. It's like you go to a flying field, there's 3 matrix, and they're all the same color scheme. So it's very unoriginal to have a matrix, but it just flies so good I had to have one. But
I call
so
them belly button
I
planes,
thought
but
that everyone has exactly.
yeah.
So I said to Tony, okay, I need one of these, but it cannot be the standard color scheme. So at the moment, I still have time to change my mind. But at the moment, the underside, he's going to be painting it in the mold for me in black.
Cool.
And the top half, he's painting it in the mold for me in bright pink.
Nice.
And then we're going to be painting it once it arrives here. So
awesome.
I have a few ideas for that, but it should be, well, first of all, bright and probably quite unique.
Very cool. That's nice to get a
And
different one.
I think you'll probably like the color scheme. I know you
Of
have
course.
your. Is it pink? We're calling it pink, purple, or do we have a special?
You can't really see it in the picture,
Short
but
fuse.
my big BDX that's back there, they did it in pink so it stands out. But my actual logo is purple, so it's kind
You're
of
calling
like
it
the
purple. Okay.
yeah, it's kind of like the
fuse.
BVM purple. But I mean, yeah, it's
Even
pink
though
purple.
Even though every woman out there who would watch this would say, "No, that's a tone of salmon."
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, it's purple or it's pink.
Yeah.
So Martin, I ask everybody on the show this question: how many planes do you currently have in your hangar?
Not that many. We talking flyable?
Just in general, it could be flyable,
Okay,
non-flyable. We can break it down if you want.
If we forget foamies and smaller toys,
Foamies
at the
count.
moment, foamies count. Okay, it's not going to change too much, to be fair. So at the moment, we would say I have 1, 2, 3, 4 flight-worthy jets.
Okay.
I have the F5 sitting here ready to be built. I have my 100cc slick, which is ready to go. And then I've got the J10 foamy, the 2 DLGs, and probably about 3 foamies and 2 flying wings.
Not bad. So it's about, what, 15 total? That's not bad.
Yeah, not too bad. I came from having a really tiny, properly tiny workshop. Bought the house that we're in now about 3 years ago, and for me, this place is massive. But we're putting more and more planes in it. And it's getting smaller by the day. But the first place was about 2.2 meters wide by about 4.5 meters long, and that was storage, workshop, paint room, video room,
Everything. Yeah.
Where we are now, from memory, this is about 6 by 3.5, which I know is still tiny in American and maybe Canada terms, but
pretty small.
for here where we are, it's a challenge to find something.
Well, it's a huge
even
step
this
up
size.
for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that I can actually assemble wings on a plane is still novel to me.
Yeah, your previous spot that you were doing all your work in was I remember watching some of your videos about that.
You could
definitely
put both walls
small.
like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You flew the BDX too, is that right? When you were over in Dubai, I believe. What did you think of it?
Yeah, That one was actually fun because basically they started the engine and said, "Hey, do you want to fly it?" So like,
Yeah.
never say no to that.
Yeah.
And then just when I'm on the edge of the runway, I say, "Oh, by the way, it's never flown before." I'm like, not an issue, but you could have told me that a minute ago. I would have
Yeah.
like double checked things a little bit more. So that is fine. We checked it all. It's good. And credit to Elite, it took off straight, flew straight, and I did one flight on it, and there's the full video online by I think it was uploaded by Matt Takar.
Mhm.
Probably said the surname wrong. Sorry, Matt. But we'll plug your channel anyway. And that entire video, we basically, or that flight was a synchro flight with Greg, who was flying his one. And we did most of the flight trying to fly in sync with each other on a maiden.
Cool.
So yeah, it flew really well.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it felt. Have you flown yours yet?
Yeah, I've got about probably 15 flights on it now.
Okay. I just found it was very stable,
Yes.
to a degree sluggish,
Yeah.
possibly due to the setup. I'm not sure. As I say, only one flight,
Mhm.
but the fact that it was both stable and sort of sluggish also made it very fun because it was very predictable
Yeah.
and smooth in everything it did. So yeah, it was a fun plane.
Cool. Yeah, it's I've heard
And
Ali
unique
say
looking.
yeah, I've heard Ali say that and quite a few guys copy it too and say it's like flying in cheat mode. Definitely is
Yes,
like flying in
I
cheat
can
mode.
agree.
It's a pretty neat aircraft for sure. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Sounds like
Yeah.
Martin wants something that's like on the border of
That sounds
not
like you're going to
stable
order
and
one as soon as we
ready to
finish.
go. Yeah.
Well, he's a pilot RC guy, so you've got to order the Matrix. I get it. I understand.
Well, it
But
just
I've
seems like
never
he's,
flown one yet either.
I'm-
So
I seem to get away with things though. I don't know quite how. I mean, I'll go to these shows and I'll fly everything,
yeah.
and I'll come back and I genuinely still, in most cases, prefer the version that Pilot makes. Like
Mhm.
prop planes, obviously the Extreme Flight makes some cool models, but I
Yeah.
prefer how the Pilot planes fly. Jets, I've never been too much of a fan of the ones that Pilot had produced previously. I've flown a few of them.
Mhm.
They fly nice. I wouldn't say that they were the best of the best. The Matrix now, I don't know the original concept was by Aircraft Studio Design, but I don't know who designed the profiles and everything. But
Mhm.
whatever they did, they just got it so right.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that little things can make such a difference. Like I've got an old BVM T33 right behind me,
Hmm.
and this is one of the like old original kits, and there's this little scoop on the underside of the wing where it meets the root of the fuselage, and that was initially part of the mold because it's a scale thing. And then Bob Violet came out with an addendum saying put this little strip on the leading edge there, and then eventually they were filling it in. I mean, you're talking
Mm.
about something the size of what we call a toonie or a loony, right? So like this big of a little indent like that, and filling that in or not filling that in makes the plane stall way sooner or way later, right? It's amazing how
wow.
those little things can
Yeah,
make such a
crazy.
difference. So yeah, the profile, I mean, yeah, it is important, obviously.
Yeah.
John, have you flown a Matrix? Right. Have you had a
No,
Matrix?
my first experience with it was seeing it at Jet Power. So I mean, here in Canada, our like a big event for us is 40 pilots. Like that's a pretty huge event for us. So when I go to these,
Like
when I
it.
go to Jet Power or somewhere in the US at an event and there's 200 pilots there, for me, it's a huge event, right? So
Yeah.
we don't see a lot of exposure to those type of aircraft up here, but when we go to the US shows, there's a lot more of them. So
Yeah. I've seen the Matrix online. It looks like a really nice plane.
yeah,
I
for
haven't
sure.
seen one in person.
Yeah.
So, all right. I think we're at the hour mark there. I think we're about ready to wrap up. What do you fellas say?
Martin,
I
any
had-
questions for Anthony or myself?
Don't know. You've put me on the spot so many times. I feel like I should
Mhm.
do the same to you guys, but
Hey.
pulling a blank at the moment.
It's all good.
That's okay.
Got to
That's
keep you
all
on
right.
your toes.
That's
Yeah.
we appreciate you coming on. We really do. And And for everybody,
No worries. Thanks for having us.
yeah, for everybody watching, we were talking about this before it started, but we're in 2 different continents right now, 3 different time zones. Martin's in Spain, John's in Canada, and I'm in New York. And it took a little bit for us to get this work out and make it happen, but huge
And then
appreciation.
we still almost started in 2 hours early by accident.
Yeah.
I saw the 11 o'clock in the message, and I thought I was at 11. That's all right. It's been a long last couple of weeks, but we make it work. I appreciate you coming on, and thank you. It is an awesome episode. So have a happy holiday.
No worries. Thanks for having us, and thanks for sharing it with everyone, I guess.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure. Merry Christmas. And
Yep.
Martin, the challenge is accepted to 100,000.
Come on. When do you think, whoever gets there first, when do you think that will be? Go on.
Based on my metrics of my channel, if things continue the way they are going now, it's going to probably be another 2.5 years for me. So
Wow.
that's what I think.
I think I'd probably be happy if it's 2.5 years.
But you never know, right? It could be
just to get
it
the
could
plaque,
be.
and the fact that in 2.5 years YouTube hasn't stopped giving out the plaque.
Exactly.
That
happens
another one.
so often to me. I've throughout my life, there's always been those things where they change something just before I achieve it, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. So, but yeah, that's exactly the same thought I had.
No, I don't care if they stop doing it. I'm having one of these Amazon ones made up and
Totally.
and sent here. I don't care. As and when we reach it, we should have.
We'll make it happen.
One way or the
Absolutely.
other. We're creators. We can create stuff.
That's it. That's it. Exactly.
I have faith in the 2 of you. You guys will be there way before I ever will. So
Well, after awesome videos like this, you may even still beat us to it. We'll see.
yeah.
Yeah.
Have a happy
YouTube's
holiday.
like that. You never
Awesome.
know.
Thanks, guys.
You too,
All
guys.
right. Thanks, Martin.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.